Welcome to the Board of Selectmen's meeting tonight, September 24th, 2018. I am the chairman for tonight. Our chairman has a little bit of laryngitis, so I will take over the meeting for tonight. Is there anyone in the audience recording this meeting? Being none, can we all rise and salute the flag? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. My understanding is we have no public comment for tonight, so we will get right into our meeting. We have no public hearings tonight. No communications to the board. Under the Selectmen general items, we have the special town meeting warrant from October 23rd, 2018, and we want to vote to approve that subject due to final review by town council. Ms. Jacobson.
Through the chair, excuse me one second. Do you want to go through the warrant every item at a time? Through the chair, generally, you start with each and you either vote to recommend, not to recommend, or defer to the petitioner?
We hadn't decided on that, but I'll ask the board if they intend to question any of the, comment any of the articles on the warrant, or we shall vote it as a package and send along to town council for their review.
No, if I may, we have two separate things. We have one for the form, which is 7A, which is to send it to council for review, and then we have 7B, but I note that we have several common victualers. I don't know if we want to take those before we start recommendations.
Okay. I'll leave it up to the board to... Well, then what we'll do then is we have the common victualers, so let's move those up first. Item 7F and G.
Motion to move them up, Mr. Chairman.
Second. Okay, motion been made and seconded to move up items 7F and 7G on common victual licenses. Any comments? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. The first one we have for tonight is Stewart's All-American Grill in the Auburn Mall. Is a representative? Please, would you come up and join us, please? Okay, could you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what your plans are?
Certainly. Good evening. Thank you for moving us up this evening. My name is Jerry Pellissier. I'm a representative from Stewart's All-American Restaurants. We're planning on opening in the Auburn Mall in the food court. It was previously the Burger King. Stewart's does have an optional breakfast component, so I think we will open with breakfast in this location in addition to our normal lunch products. Stewart's is primarily hamburgers, hot dogs, cheesesteak sandwiches, all kinds of appetizers, and of course our world-famous root beer floats. So we will have ice cream as well.
Okay. As I see in the application here, the days and hours of operation are Monday through Saturday, 11 in the morning till 9 at night, and then Sundays, 11 in the morning till 6 at night. Is that going to be suitable for you, or you're saying you're going to have a breakfast menu?
Now that I've been told there is no other coffee in the entire mall, I'd like to push that up about 2 hours earlier.
So you want to make it on Monday through Saturday from 9 till 9 at night?
Yes.
And then on Sundays, 9 in the morning till 6 at night?
Correct.
Can we make a note of that on our application so that we're aware of that?
Our goal is to provide breakfast not only to the patrons coming to the mall, but also to the employees as well.
Okay. And you're not responsible for seating, the mall is responsible for the seating there?
There's common seating in the food court, correct.
Mrs. Goodrich?
Thank you. Do you need authorization from mall management to open early, and also on your license, I know that all the businesses in the mall are required to open when the mall is open, especially like holiday hours.
Right.
So I think we should maybe amend it to say, as per the required hours of the mall contract.
Okay.
Because if they, say during the holidays, I know that businesses, if they open during, what do you call it?
Yeah, for instance, Black Friday.
Black Friday.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I'd like, just so that we're covered, to put their hours of operation as per their Auburn Mall contract.
Very good point. Yes, we are required to open by 10 a.m. when the mall opens, and I will speak to them about opening an hour earlier so that we can provide breakfast for the mall employees, and there are also mall walkers, so we hopefully take care of those needs as well.
Right. Well, then, from what I see, it's a fast food restaurant featuring burgers, hot dogs, sandwiches, salads, ice cream. And so you're going to also have breakfast foods.
Very simple, coffee, tea, bagel, egg, and cheese type of product,
Okay.
and some muffins.
Okay. I didn't know if that was going to be anything that we would want to just add to the application, just as a revision, just so that we're aware that of all that is being done. So if we could make a note of that, that'd be great. Has anybody got any questions from the board? Mr. Berthium?
Point of clarification, the mall opens at 9?
No, the mall opens at 10.
At 10, okay, so you want 9 to 9. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Has anybody else got anything? Okay, you've had a chance to meet with the DCG?
Yes, I have.
And from the DCG, you should obtain all the necessary permits and inspections from the town departments, the boards, as you are tonight, or the commissions, most notably the Board of Health, prior to receiving an occupancy permit. And you've been in touch with everybody.
Yes, I have.
And a member of on-site staff at all times must be allergen and safe surf satisfied. Are you
Yes.
certified? I'm sorry.
Our general manager and district manager both are, and we'll make sure we have another employee hired that also is trained to do that.
Right. Any other questions, comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the license, subject to all conditions stated upon it, all the requirements of town boards, commissions, and committees, as well as the conditions of the DCG to be placed upon it. Failure to comply with any and all regulations and approvals will render the license null and void.
Second? Any further discussion, questions? Being none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Good luck.
I thank you very much for your time.
Okay, the second one we have is a victuals license for Captain Lewis in the Auburn Mall. Is there anybody from that establishment here tonight? Okay. Would you please come up? Introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what your plans are.
Hello, my name is John, and our concept name is Captain Louis. I think there's supposed to be an apostrophe there, but that's fine. So we are kind of like a southern boil and southern fried seafood restaurant concept. We do have a couple other locations in Massachusetts and in some other states, but for this setting, it'll be a first time in a mall food court, so our menu is going to be a little bit more limited. So we're going to have just like shrimp, mussels, fried shrimp, we may have fried chicken, some soups as well. Our other locations, they have like snow crab and king crab and other seafoods like that that we also do as part of our boil. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay. Has anybody got any questions, comments?
Mr. Chairman, I would just recommend that we add to the days and hours of operations the times
I'm just gonna look at
listed,
that.
as well as per the mall required hours.
Okay. So we add that to as per
The Auburn Mall required hours.
More required hours. What are your plans right now? Your plans are be pretty much 9, 10 o'clock in the morning? Is it going to be a little bit later than that?
No, we'll probably do the same as, well, not the breakfast, but we will open according to the mall hours.
Okay.
For lunch, dinner, and then when, as long as we can.
Okay. And you'll approach them and just be sure of the contract and be sure that you open during the required hours?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Being none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion, we approve the license, subject to all conditions stated upon it, subject to any and all conditions from town boards, commissions, committees, departments. Any violation of said conditions will render the license null and void, and with the conditions of the DCG to be placed upon it as well.
Second.
Okay. Any further questions, comments? Being none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you very much and good luck.
Thank you very much.
Okay, let's see. I would request that we move up item 8B, town manager items, update on the roadway program.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ms. Jacobson.
Thank you. Through the chair, I'd like to have DPW Director Bill Coyle come up. And I'm going to pass out to you the list of streets that are going to be reconstructed as part of our overall roadway reconstruction program. And Bill is going to explain to you the project and the bidder that came in.
Good evening, members of the board. I wanted to first update you on the contract that we had put out to bid earlier. Actually, it was probably last fall that we started late in the year, and primarily completed the project this year, probably 95% of the work. So the contract that we were currently working on was with P.J. Albert, and that contract value was $1.7 million. And as part of that project, we reconstructed 24 roads and be 4 miles once we complete the work on Prospect Street, which is going to be starting within the next week or two as well. So that's a separate contract with P.J. Albert, a total of 4 miles, and total value will be about $2 million. And then recently, we went out to bid for another contract. We had $700,000 available in Chapter 90 funds and probably $300,000 in town funds. So the contract that we went out to bid with consisted of 1.8 miles of roadways. The bidding was very close. The low bidder on this contract was P.J. Keating of Lunenburg. In the past several years, P.J. Albert was a successful bidder, and it was a margin of about $5,000 on this contract with the low bid of $807,000. So it's very close bids. We did receive 5 bids total, and we did check the references for P.J. Keating. They're out of Lunenburg, and I am familiar with their work, and the references came back positive. That project will be starting within the next week or two. We're actually meeting with them tomorrow. The contract is in place, and we're hoping to get as much work done as we can this year still. We probably still have several weeks, hopefully 6 weeks or so, to get some work done. In some ways, we're fortunate to have 2 contractors now, because we'll have P.J. Albert starting on Prospect Street in the next week or two, and P.J. Keating is anxious to get started on their contract, and they also want to get started the next week or two. So there'll be a lot of work going on still in town, and if it's okay with the board, I can run through the list of streets that we've chosen for this contract. So starting with Central Street, I'm sure many of you have been driving from the bottom of the hill at Auburn Street with the trenches and coming up past R.H. White's to the town hall in rough shape. So the first half of the project would just be to mill out that existing trench up to about Mount View Ave by R.H. White's. So, because the rest of the roadway's in pretty good shape, and so is the sidewalk. And then from that portion, which is about half the length, a little less, it'll be less than half, We will then do full-depth milling of the roadway from Mount View, so from R.H. White's to the Church Street intersection. So we'll mill full width at that point, mill and overlay, and reconstruct the sidewalks as well in that area. In addition to Central Street, we have Faniff Street from Vine Street to Grandview in very poor condition. And I'm going to skip down to the next one after, or skip over one, Grandview Street, because those two streets are in the same neighborhood. So Faniff and Grandview, both in poor condition. And then back to Fletcher Drive, which is in the same neighborhood as the following streets that are also included: Fletcher Drive, Knowles to Loring, Knowles Street from South Street to Packard Ave from Central to Knowles, South Terrace from Winter to South Street, Windsor Ave from Central to Kennel Ray Road, and Winter Street from Knowles to Central Street. The total length is about 1.8 miles of roadways, and we're going to try to get as many of these roads done before winter. I don't think we're going to get them all done, so what we don't complete this year, we'll roll over into next spring, and then next year we'll start working on putting together next bid package for probably, with the town's funds, assuming they're approved again in May, and Chapter 90 would be about another 1.5 million starting after July 1 of next year. So I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have, but we're excited to get more road work done before the end of the year.
Mrs. Goodrich?
No, I'm trying not to talk. Are all of these roads classified as poor, or was it just the two that you specifically mentioned, Grandview and Faniff?
These are all in poor condition. Central Street is probably in the best condition.
Okay.
Which is why we're just going to, which is why we're going to mill and overlay that road. And quite honestly, there's other main roads that are in need of mill and overlay that we put aside. There's some segments of Rochdale Street that need some attention, and South Street, and even Church Street that could use a mill and overlay, but it can wait a little longer. So we prioritize some of the neighborhood streets, but it is a balance. But Central Street, it really needs to be milled. It is riding rough, and the sidewalks are in poor condition. And we looked at originally trying to lump in Central, Church, and South Street. Again, those are main roads, so we don't want them to get into condition where they are in poor condition. But the rest of all these neighborhood streets are in poor condition. In fact, when I drove over, it was Packard Ave this afternoon, I was really surprised at how rough that's really gotten. I mean, there's a lot of gravel showing through from the roadway now, so it'd be good to get these done. And a lot of these are in the same neighborhood, so they were probably built about the same time, which explains why they're in equally poor condition.
Mr. Liberty?
Through the chair, so I have some experience driving down Grandview and Faniff, and I know I've talked to you and the town manager in the past about a house on Faniff that's had to deal with flooding. I know that on that street there is a drain that's actually in the grass. It's not on part of the road. Is there any way that, since we're paving or repaving this road already, we might be able to move that so that it actually is able to take in more water running off on the street?
Yeah, we do look at all the roads for drainage. In fact, we were walking Prospect Street today, marking everything out for PJ Albert. So I know we do have some drainage in both of those neighborhoods, so I can check that specific concern. Was that the end?
Yeah, it's on the, if you're standing on the Vine Street looking at Faniff, it's on your left side. I think it's 2 houses in.
2 houses in, okay.
It's on the grass area there instead of connecting to the road.
And a lot of times when we see drainage in the grass areas, we'll put in what's called a gutter inlet. It's not a full-blown catch basin. So in the winter, especially when you have a windrow of snow, the water can't get to those structures. So recognizing that, we'll put a structure in the gutter of the roadway and tie it in. So we'll take a look at, we may add drainage to it versus remove it, just so that it's a little more efficient.
Great, thanks. I did have another question about Grandview also. I know that where Grandview meets Richard Street, there's a really big pothole that...
Yeah, I know what that is.
Water, yeah, and I know the cars have stalled out there in the past. We'll repaving it, I'm sure it'll fix that, but I'm worried that it might flood the surrounding properties if we raise the road? Is there any concern with that?
No, not really, because what's happening is that is a giant puddle that forms because the water just gets trapped. So the only additional water is basically going to be what is being held by the giant puddle, because it just overflows and then drains out. So we'll put in a catch basin to be able to allow that water to escape. So we'll correct this situation, but it wouldn't cause any flooding.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else got anything? Okay, I do have a question. Couple of things. Central Street from Church to Mount View, right there in front of the cemetery, it appears that there's a pretty good crown in that road. Is that going to be taken out and kind of flattened out, or are you going to maintain the...
We did look at that. Because of the cost to change that, we haven't really experienced any issues with it. It is a pretty significant crown.
Yep.
But with just a mill and overlay, we wouldn't be able to change that really.
The other case is, I know that we had talked back some time ago about crack filling. Are
Yes.
you in process of doing that now?
We're starting next week because we've had our crews pulled in different directions. We'll be going, full crew going out next Monday, crack sealing, as long as the weather will allow. So we'll have one crew out doing crack sealing. We've spent a lot of time rebuilding catch basins this season, and we'll have a second crew doing patching. I marked out some patches on South Street in the Paul Street area. There's a couple large areas that keep opening up, so we'll look to patch those areas, and there's some other roads in town that I'd like to patch as well. So we have a lot that we still want to get done before winter, and we're hopeful that we can get quite a bit completed still.
Great, thank you. Mrs. Goodrich?
I just want to make one last comment. Bill, thank you for your leadership on this. I mean, I know that your roadway program has been used as a model throughout the state, and the roads were in pretty bad shape when you took over as DPW director, and you've done great work working with the town manager
Thank you.
on the budget and state funding to really bring our roads back up to where they should be.
Thank you, I appreciate that. We still have a long ways to go, but we're getting there.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
You got anything else for us tonight?
Just one side note, I just ordered about 700 tons of salt, so that'll be getting delivered on October 9th. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Okay. I guess the next we're going to do is we're going to get into item 7A. We'll go back into the agenda. October 23rd, special town meeting warrant, and vote to approve the subject to final review by town council. Mr. Liberty.
It's all right. I'd like to make a motion to move up agenda item 10B, just because there is a resident here that I know wants to speak on it, and I don't know how long we'll go into the warrant.
Okay. So the motion, is there a motion?
That's a motion.
That's a motion.
Motion, and it's seconded? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Item 10B, discussion on town-sponsored informative mailings for ballot questions. And Mr. LaLiberte, your name is associated with this, so we'll let you go from here.
Okay. So through the chair, a resident reached out to me with this idea. Since we are going to have a ballot question for the town this coming election, she had reached out and said that it might be beneficial for the town and might increase turnout. And I know that the last time we had a ballot question, there was a lot of confusion on election day as to what a yes vote did and what a no vote would do. I know people on both sides who meant to vote the other way and voted the wrong way. I know Mr. Berthium had said that he talked to people who that also happened to. So I guess this is, I have no idea what the cost would be, but I wanted to discuss it with everyone. Certainly might be something to look into, sending out a mailing to inform voters on really what their vote will do on a ballot question. And also to let them know about the election and hopefully boost turnout. But with that, I'd actually like to turn it over to the resident that suggested it.
Okay. Can come forward, please? Would you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, I'm Sarah Libby. I'm at 9 Sherman Ave. Yeah, I spoke to Tristan after we discussed what happened last Board of Selectmen's meeting with the result for the plastic bag ban and how it's going to go to election. And I thought that well, the last time we had a ballot question in Auburn, the turnout wasn't great. People I spoke with either didn't know there was an election, or didn't know what the questions were, or what the yes or no would do. And I thought it might be helpful if, like Tristan said, we sent out a mailing that said when the election was, what the questions are on the town election, and what yes or no do, as well as well-written essays for and against the questions. The state sends out mailings for this for the ballot questions every year. Mine just arrived today, and I just thought it would be helpful to boost turnout in Auburn. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I guess my first question would be for which election? Would that be for our election for the town, or for the November 6th election?
Well, I think that
Excuse me.
the state is already sending them out for their election. I mean, it's a statewide election, and plus we don't have any town items on that. So I guess that all I want to discuss tonight is the potential to maybe do it on
The annual
our
election.
town, right, our May election.
Well, I guess I'll turn that over to the town manager and see what kind of options we have for that kind of a thing.
Through the chair, we're happy to look into it more. When the item came in just the other day, I took a quick look, and there was a local acceptance law that was passed under the Acts of 2010 by the legislature, and it was Chapter 188, that requires communities adopt that local acceptance law to be able to send information for a question. Without the adoption of that law, or without a home rule petition, it's my understanding that municipalities cannot do mailings to residents with regard to questions on a ballot. And there is a process that needs to be followed. Again, I just saw it the other day, so I haven't had a chance to look into it too much further. I couldn't find a record of a vote in 2010 of this board adopting that local option law, so that would be something that would have to be considered, and I can look more into the law, but without adopting that, it's my understanding that municipalities can't send out information. There was an interesting article in the paper the other day about the town of Shrewsbury, and apparently they did a home rule petition back in 2007. And in 2007, they had a specific home rule petition that allowed them to solicit groups and choose one group for each side of the question, and that one group would then go forward and prepare information and send it out 10 days prior to an election. I don't know if, I haven't looked at Chapter 188 to see what the requirements are. It may be laid out in Chapter 188 what a town can and cannot do, but again, it's my understanding that a municipality has to adopt that before they can move forward on it.
Okay, and the municipality adopted, meaning the Board of Selectmen or town meeting?
It's a good question. I don't know. Generally, it's town meeting, although it could have authorized a Board of Selectmen. I didn't read the legislation to see what the requirement is. So I don't know if it's the local legislative body, then it's town meeting. If it's the executive body, then it's the Board of Selectmen.
Well,
I'm happy to look at it and bring it back at the next meeting.
Okay. Well, the only thing I'm thinking is if it's the executive body, which would be the town meeting, we're going to vote the warrant tonight, and it's not on the warrant. So we wouldn't be able to do anything in this annual election because the town meeting and the election is too close together. So chances are we wouldn't be able to put anything on for the election. It's 2 weeks in between, so I don't know if that would be something we could do. That'd be
Right.
pretty tight schedule, so.
Through the chair, we can get back to you with a report on timelines. I want to work with the town clerk to see when the ballot would have to be developed for the election. As you said, the town meeting is 2 weeks before the election. The law that I read quickly just said within 10 days of the election, you can do the mailing, but that would still only give 4 days, and then you have to give, I think, 2 days or 48 hours for a rescission after the vote is made before it becomes effective. So you've actually only narrowed it down now to 2 days. So I'd be more comfortable getting back to you on it
Okay,
than
great.
giving you specific information, because I just, literally, from the moment that I saw Mr. Liberty's request, that the newspaper article came out the very next day on the town of Shrewsbury talking about this very issue.
Okay, I think, I think he's got a point that get the voters out, if they're made aware of what the date is, made aware of what the questions on the ballot are, not necessarily all of the people that are running, but if there are ballot questions, that let the people know what they are before they get there, and then we may get a more suitable turnout. Mr. Carpenter?
I can't remember exactly, maybe Ed can remind me, but at one point, we did have town council, I recall, Mr. Hennigan, we had some sort of question, and it wasn't mailed, I don't believe, to homes, but he took the question and he did something similar to the Secretary of State. So even if we couldn't mail, maybe this would be an alternative if we could get something in writing, and then we could send out a press release, at least, with the information. But Ed, do you remember? I forget.
I think it
what
was just further information on the ballot that a yes vote meant this and a no vote meant this. So I think it further defined that. That's my recollection of what Mr. Hennigan's involvement was. So I think you could probably do something similar to that, but you couldn't do it, as the town manager indicated, a separate mailing at this point without the adoption of potentially that
I
law.
just figured that could be a Plan B, and it might, I know it would have a cost to it, but it might be cheaper than a mailing, and we could use the media as well as our own social media to get that information out in some sort of legal format.
Okay.
Through the chair, on the last ballot question that we had, I believe it was in May of 17, that Mr. Liberty is referring to, we did put a yes vote means this, and a no vote means this. And that had to be run by town council as well as the Attorney General's office. So we can look into if that yes means this and no means this can be expanded any further than it was, and get back to you on that as well.
So probably, possibly for our next meeting, you could have that information for us?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mrs. Goodrich.
Just since we're putting information together, so I'm looking at this as two separate issues. I mean, certainly putting out a mailer with the date of the election, the proposed question, and a very descriptive summary on what a yes/no vote means and a no vote means, but to have a summary in support of a plastic bag ban or opposed to a plastic bag ban, I feel is not the town's position. I'm not sure who they have in mind of writing the summary, which I'm not opposed to having the summary, but I don't even know that that can be done. If you have someone who's an advocate for the plastic bag ban, write a summary for the town, and you have someone who's opposed, write a summary for the town. I'm not sure that we can do that, so I definitely want that looked at as well, because it's a much different issue than just putting a mailer with what a yes/no vote means and what simply, we could expand it, but a yes vote would mean the banning of single-use plastic bags with the exception of dry cleaner bags, etc. A no vote means, the town will continue the way it is, as opposed to,
Okay.
I know I would talk too much.
Thank you. You could look into that for us for our next meeting.
Yeah, through the chair, I don't want to guarantee for the next meeting, because this is going to involve working with the town council, with the Attorney General's office, and potentially with the legislature and doing some research, so I don't want to guarantee it.
Okay, that's
for the
great.
next meeting. I'll try, but I don't know that I'll be able to get the
When
information
you're
back in a
able to,
week. All right.
thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, are there any other members want anything else moved up?
I'd make a motion that we move up 8C, Mr. Chairman.
8C.
It's on the Stanton Foundation grant application.
Okay, so we need a motion.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to move up 8C, and that's the Stanton Foundation grant. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Is there anybody here to speak on this tonight?
Through the chair, I was just going to give the board an update, and certainly if there are any residents who'd like to speak on it, but I just wanted to bring this item to the board tonight because I've been in touch with members of the Fur Friends, and they're very excited. They're almost within a couple of $100, at least as of the end of last week, within their $15,000 goal. And I know they had a couple of fundraising initiatives this past weekend, and I think they have a couple coming up at the end of the month for the homecoming. I believe there might be a table there. So they're getting so close to hitting their mark. We feel that we should start putting together the application. It will take a couple weeks to get it together. We have a meeting scheduled with the Fur Friends to review a preliminary plan. I believe the end of the first week in October, second week in October, is on the 11th. Thank you. So DPW Engineering is going to come up with a preliminary design. We're going to sit down with the members of the Fur Friends, look it over, make sure everyone's comfortable with it, and get ready to work with Bill Coyle and Amy Contois, our Animal Control Officer, to get the Stanton Grant Foundation grant application in place. We didn't want to wait until the board met again. We want to make sure that we're proceeding along the lines that the board wants us to. So if you could authorize us to go ahead and apply, we will get that process moving.
Okay. Any board members got any questions, comments? Okay, we'll look for a motion on a vote on authorizing the Stanton Foundation grant application in the amount of $150,000 for the dog park, pending evidence of the match.
That motion.
Okay. Motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, let's move on and see what we do with it.
Thank you, and I just want to recognize the members of the Fur Friends who are here in the audience as well, and thank them for all their work. They really have done a phenomenal job with their fundraising efforts, and really from the time they got their 501c3 designation, they've moved very quickly to do this. So we're excited, and I know you just took the vote, but just to explain to those who may be watching that the Fur Friends are providing the 10% required match, which is why the dollar amount is $150,000 that we would be applying for, with the $15,000 being the 10% match.
Now, we voted on this, but is there anybody from the Fur Friends here who would like to get up and say anything? Please, come up and introduce yourself.
My name is Nancy Sarkeesian, and I'm one of the members of the Fur Friends. So first off, I just wanted to thank you very much for that vote to move forward on this. We're really excited. We've worked really hard. So I just wanted to give you a little bit more detail than what the town manager had said. So we have raised actually well over, I don't have that exact figure. Well, no, I actually do. I'm going to tell you what it is. So to this date, we've raised $16,270.18. However, with expenses, as of 5:20 this evening, we have $13,591.39. We also have a check that's in the mail from the 99. We had done a fundraiser, Dine for Paws, so that's $279 that's already in the mail coming to us. We have a $500 donation from a local business that she had just told us about it. We just have to go pick up the check, so that's another one that's a definite. On October 24th, we're hosting a spaghetti supper, and, that should bring in a good amount of money. On September 30th, we have the Auburn Farmers Market, which we've been doing that every month, and we sell our homemade dog cookies and our leashes and collars that we make ourselves. So that always brings in like $300 to $400 usually. And then on the December 15th, we're not doing the homecoming, and reason being is we always bring our furry friends with us, and we didn't feel that would be it would be too crowded and too congested to bring our furry friends there, so we decided not to do that. But on December 15th, we're doing the Holiday Craft Fair. Again, it's a very busy event, so we have no, we're set and ready to do that. The other thing that I have not mentioned, and I don't have exact amounts, is we have several local businesses as well as individuals that have said, yes, I would like to purchase a brick. So we just have to get that, the way the bricks are purchased, they're purchased online, and they have to fill out a form, so we just have to get that information out to them so that they can do that, and they can purchase a memorial brick or a sponsorship brick. So that's it, if anyone has any questions.
You say you've got a spaghetti dinner coming on October 24th?
We do.
And that's going to be where?
Okay, so that is October 24th at Packagug Church here in Auburn, and we have our local town employee, Matt Benoit, who's going to be providing us with the entertainment, singing, and I think he plays the guitar, I think. And then we have local people that will be preparing and serving the dinner. Should be lots of fun, so we're hoping that people will buy tickets. We have an email address on our website, which is furfriendsofauburn.com. You can make a reservation, or if you have PayPal or Venmo, you can also purchase the tickets there.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, back to our agenda. Item 7A, for the special town meeting warrant, vote to approve the subject to final review by town council. Anything you want to add to that, Ms. Jacobson?
Jump in.
This is just a vote to pass it along to town council?
Mr. Chairman, just a quick update to the board relative to the warrant before you tonight. We've made some modifications since we closed out the fiscal year. We made some adjustments in the area of local receipts that added about $200,000 of additional revenue, since our year-to-date actual came in about $1.4 million higher than we expected. Our cherry sheet numbers are now final. When you net out the revenue against net of assessments, it's about a $60,000 increase. There is approximately $103,883 adjustment to the operational side of the budget under Article 2. Based upon the adjustments in revenue and expense for the entire warrant, we'd be utilizing about 31.53% of 2.5, significantly down from where we were at the annual town meeting. That would be taxing at a rate of just over 0.75% out of 2.5. So we continue to dilute that as best we can using additional revenues and as well as other resources that became available since the annual town meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Also, one other comment regarding free cash, and I know this is an item that is under 8A, so I thought it'd be a good opportunity to at least notify the board that we had our free cash certification notification by the Department of Revenue on September 13th. General fund free cash is $12.254 million. Enterprise fund free cash or retained earnings is $1.538 million. Enterprise golf course, Packagug, $137,646. And a newly established PEG access, public access of $397,340. Under the amended free cash policy, we had a shift of about actually it was about 2.2 million, because last year's free cash was reduced by appropriations of $675,000, leaving us an adjusted free cash of $10,109,390. We had revenue over estimated of $1.443 million and appropriation surpluses of $691,000, giving us a total of $12,254,536. And under the free cash policy, we can appropriate up to 50% of the net gain, which was $1,470,146, which would allow for one-time appropriations of $735,073. And the free cash appropriation request under various articles is $730,700, leaving about a $5,000 balance.
Okay. Any questions on that report? Okay. Let's go to item 7A then, and we're going to vote to approve the warrant to final review by town council.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Being none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? It's a vote. Let's go to 7B, vote recommendation on the special town meeting warrant on the articles. And the recommendations would be to recommend approval, not recommend approval, defer to the petitioner, or take no position at this time. So I guess we'll start with, well, Article 1 is our report, so Article 2.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, we have several department heads here. Are they here for a specific reason? Do we need to move something up? Or do they just want to listen to us because it's so exciting?
Through the chair, anyone who is sponsoring a warrant article is in attendance tonight if the board should have any questions of them.
Okay. All right, then, unless there's some issue with time element here, then we'll just go, we'll start with number 1, and that'll be the reports. Article 2.
I'll make a motion to recommend.
Second.
Article 2, to recommend. Is there any questions, discussion? Being none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Article 3, to see if the town meeting will vote to appropriate $1,850 from the state primary election account.
Make a motion to recommend.
Second.
Any discussion, questions, comments? Being none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, to Article 4. Town meeting vote to appropriate the sum of $9,700 from general fund revenues for turnout gear washing machines.
Motion to recommend.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion, questions? Being none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, Article 5, to see if the town meeting will vote to appropriate the sum of $300,000 from free cash to town stabilization fund.
Motion to recommend.
Second.
Okay, motion been made to recommend Article 5. Is there any discussion? Being none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Article 6. Oh, by the way, we have our chairman of the Finance Committee with us tonight, too, so if there's any questions, then please step right up. Thank you. Article 6, to see if the town meeting will vote to appropriate the sum of $100,000 from free cash to the town OPEB. That's the other Post-Employee Benefits Liability Trust Fund, which we are required to continue to distribute to.
Motion to recommend.
Second.
Any discussion, comments? Being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Article 7, to see if the town meeting will vote to repurpose the following unexpended bond proceeds. And there are many here.
I'll make a motion to recommend. I don't know if anyone wants to discuss any of the line items.
Okay, so the motion has been made to recommend Article 7. And,
Second.
okay, and there's a second. Is there any discussion? Yes, Mr. Carpenter.
Only just to say for those at home that this is, I asked the question earlier of the town accountant, and he said that these are residual savings from activities, mostly from the facilities, because we were able to save money on labor through the facilities team, so that's a great thing. So that's a good thing.
Great. Any further comment?
No, I mean, we give this a annual review and try to bring this to town meeting at the fall. And we need to repurpose these funds for a like purpose, so we don't encounter any type of arbitrage issues with the IRS, or we need to spend down these funds within a certain period of time.
Okay. So the motion's been made and seconded for Article 7. Any further discussion? Being none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Article 8, to see if the town meeting will vote to appropriate $40,000 from overlay surplus for miscellaneous building facility improvements. And this is all under the capital improvements.
Motion to recommend.
Second.
Okay, motion made to recommend Article 8 is, yes, Mr. LaLiberty.
I just had a quick question. Are the improvements being done by the DPW?
Yes. Actually, the need is greater than 40, but we just do not have the time for facilities to perform some of these upgrades, repairs, because the checklist is so long that we plan on taking or addressing this at the annual town meeting, and hopefully we'll get caught up and be able to address some other things that are on the list.
So for Article 8, motion has been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Article 9, to see if the town meeting will vote to appropriate $33,500 from free cash for the purchase of modern websites for the town of Auburn, Auburn Fire Rescue Department, Auburn Public Library, and Packagug Golf Course.
Motion to recommend.
Second.
Okay. Mrs. Goodrich.
Thank you. Just under discussion, I just wanted to thank Mr. Kaznovich for these articles. The following articles that are using the free cash. Once again, we've adopted a policy for the use of free cash, and it's working. And just another clear indication of the Finance Committee, School Committee, and Board of Selectmen adopting these policies and seeing a significant savings.
Thank you, Mrs. Goodrich. So, Article 9? Yes, Mr. LaLiberty.
I do have questions about what this article entails with modern websites.
Mrs. Jacobson?
Through the chair, and we also have Mike Marino here, our IT director, so I'm going to turn it to him, but just overall, and Mike can explain the technical part better, but our website is very outdated. We do receive several complaints, not just from employees trying to post things and we're unable to, but also from residents. It's not very user-friendly. It hasn't kept up with the times, and it's not allowing us to keep up with the times to provide information to the public. But I'm going to turn to Mike, and he can explain how this would work.
So yes, our current website, as Ms. Jacobson said, is very outdated. It's not very user-friendly. What we want to do is modernize it, and this counts for 4 websites. This is not only the town site, but the fire rescue site, the Packagug Golf Course, and the Auburn Public Library as well. Basically, we want to make it user-friendly. It'll be mobile-ready. As you know, most people nowadays use their phones or tablets. The platform that we're looking at, it's completely functional with tablets, mobile devices. We want to make a user-friendly search engine, so you can actually find what you're looking for on the site. ADA compliance is another big one. The state recently passed a law about ADA compliance, and this site will make sure that anything we post will be compliant going forward. So those are some of the big issues that we're looking for.
As someone who's been frustrated on the town site myself, I'm glad that this is happening, and thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions, comments?
Just one.
Yes, Mr. Carpenter.
Are we going to use the same virtual town hall host, or are we getting a totally new vendor for that as well?
So it's a little complicated because it's a different vendor. However, that vendor has bought virtual town hall. So it is a different vendor, but it would be the same vendor that we stayed with if we stayed with virtual town hall now.
So this is strictly websites, informational only for the public. It's not going to be for the individual departments for recording or reporting anything. It's going to be a website for the public to come into the town's website, make it a little bit more easier for them.
Yeah, there are some other functionality that goes along with it. There are some like forms, like complaint forms or pothole tracking forms. We currently have some, but these offer a better solution, a better tracking internally. Like say there's a pothole that somebody writes in about, and the email address that it goes to, that person's away on vacation. And they get back, they have a ton of email, they missed that one, it gets lost. This system will actually track it and say, hey, you haven't responded to this one in X amount of days. Take a look at this one. So it'll notify us of things that may have been missed.
All right. Anything, Mr. Liberty?
Sorry, I thought of something new. The chair, the Real Clear government app that we saw, or not app, but that we saw Mrs. Jacobson presented on, will that be easily accessed on this?
Yeah, that's a separate website, and all that is we just have a link to it currently on our website, and we can do the same thing with that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? So has the motion been made on this?
Yes.
Yes. And seconded? Okay. Is there any further discussion? Being none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. We go to Article 10. See if the town meeting will vote to appropriate $100,000 from free cash for a new playground equipment at Franklin Park and the Boy Street Tot Lot.
Motion to recommend.
Motion's been made.
I'll second it for discussion.
Okay. So, go ahead, Mr. Berthew.
The Boy Street, have we looked to see like how much it's used and with the tot lot? I know it's not, great parking there. I know it's, it's up on the hill. I just don't know how much the neighborhood really uses it and whether there should be money continued to put into it.
Sure.
Welcome back, Mr. Coyle.
Thank you. Through the chair. I can't tell you I know exactly how many people use it. I do know that we've had some concerns brought to our attention about the condition of both the Tot Lot and Franklin Park. So we had a consultant look at them and did indicate to us that they are both outdated, neither one of them updated for many, many, many years, and felt even as for liability reasons, we should be moving forward, updating these sooner than later. So rather than programming it on our CIP 5 years out, having the knowledge that some of the concerns were relative to safety, we felt it was important to move forward with them. I can't tell you exactly how many people use it. I know it does get used because we do get some calls to our office, and my concern would be if we didn't replace it, I think we'd get a lot more calls to the office. So that's probably the best I can answer that.
Yes. Mr. Benoit, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to relay something I had learned from some of the neighbors of that area. When we were looking at town parks for dog parks a year and a half ago, one of the area residents nearby said that there is an in-home daycare nearby that seems to frequent that playground for the kids that are under their care. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Berthew.
Clarification, that was the Boy Street one, Mr. Benoit? The Boy Street one, okay. I just, my reason, I grew up there. I went to Boy Street School, so there was a school there when I went. And in Franklin Field, they're, I would think, less than a half a mile away from each other. So I didn't know if, we should build one good one and reuse the land. Obviously, Franklin Field has a field in Franklin Park. So I didn't know if there was ability to make it better, make Franklin better, and then reuse Boy Street property for something. If kids are using it, I am all for it.
And again, through the chair, that's not something that we looked at. Oftentimes, whenever we have a park that exists or a playground that exists, it becomes very difficult to eliminate that in the neighborhood, and whether or not it's used 10 times a week or 50 times a week. I know it would become, we would get quite a few phone calls if we proposed to eliminate the park. So, but it hasn't been anything that we've looked at. It's not to say we couldn't consider that, but at this point we haven't.
Mrs. Goodrich.
I just want to say, speaking to people down in that area, I think the park would be used more if it had updated equipment. I think the parents have concerns regarding safety with the current condition it is, and I really would support keeping a neighborhood, especially a tot lot. It's important that children socialize at that age and gives parents an opportunity to get out of the house right in their neighborhood in walking distance.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Mr. Berthium, then Mr. Carpenter.
Just, because I can't visualize, obviously I can visualize the area. I know going down the sidewalks in front of Boy Street Park there, that they were pretty beat up. Has that been redone recently?
Yes, during the reconstruction of Boy Street, probably 4 years ago, probably 4 or 5 years ago now, we reconstructed all the sidewalks as well.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Carpenter.
Just a question, is this all of the equipment at both places are going to be replaced, Mr. Coyle?
Yes, it would, I mean, obviously, some of the equipment may be different where times have changed, but it would be both parks. The estimate that we received is $50,000 per park.
There'd be nothing left of what is there currently?
That's my understanding.
All that equipment is going?
Right, it's very, very dated.
Okay.
Anything else? Mr. Liberty.
I know that some of the equipment at the park is a lot newer than some of the equipment, at least at Franklin, because I know some of the things that are there were there when I was little and going there. But I was wondering, how long will the new equipment that we're getting last at either park? Is there an estimate on that?
I couldn't tell you exactly. I would be guessing. I would guess 20 years, but again, it's purely a guess.
Okay. Anything else? Being none, the motion's been made and seconded for Article 10. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Coyle. Article 11, to see if town meeting will vote to appropriate $150,000 for free cash to resurface or reconstruct municipal parking lots.
I'll make that motion, recommend.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Mr. Carpenter?
Do you have specific ones? How many will you be able to do for this amount of money?
We've prepared estimates on all of the town lots. Some need resurfacing. For example, the town hall would be resurfacing, library in the future would be resurfacing, DPW would be a full pulverize, fire station would be full pulverize. Lemansky Park is a very large park, which eventually will need to be reconstructed as well. We've been discussing programming funds in the future CIP to address some of the issues. I think we have the $150,000 that we programmed last year moving forward. The estimate for the $150 would cover, for example, DPW's parking lot, front, side, back, the entire area. There's drainage improvements, some new stormwater management requirements. That amount would probably cover that parking lot. I believe we were similar estimate. I believe the fire station was a little less than that amount. With the ongoing, the study that will soon be ongoing, we'd held off on doing any major changes there, not knowing what the outcome of that study will be. So initially, in talking with the CFO and the town manager, we were probably looking at the DPW parking lot. And we first had put it specifically as DPW, but we felt if there were any funds remaining, if we had the ability to use those funds to overlay another parking lot, we didn't want to have it so specific that we wouldn't be able to. So at this point, it would be DPW parking lot, and then continue with the CFO and town manager looking at the other parking lots in the future.
Anything further? Being none, all those in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Article 12, to see if the town meeting will vote to appropriate $47,200 from free cash to provide grant matching funds for the rehab of Leesville Pond Dam.
Motion to recommend.
Is there a motion?
Motion to recommend.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Yes, Mr. Carpenter.
Just what is the nature of the work that needs to be done or you're looking to have done?
Sure. The majority of the work would be clearing trees that are within 20 feet of the dam, and then also some slope stabilization. The dam structure itself would have limited amount of work completed to it, but because of the area in need of work as well, the last inspection we had rated the dam in poor condition, which really is unfortunate because it's not specific to the dam. As soon as there are trees within 20 feet, there's a checklist. And once you have that situation existing, it triggers the poor rating. And then we have to move forward with clearing all the trees. And once we start doing that, we're now into slope stabilization along both side slopes coming into the dam. So the majority of the work is going to be on side slopes of the dam. We've completed the design and also have gotten the environmental permitting in hand, and we're hopeful of getting this grant. You know, obviously, it'd be something that we would rather have grant funds paying for the work versus town funds. We submitted the grant application back in August, I believe it was, July or August. Still waiting to hear back to see if we were going to be successful with the grant. And if we are, this would be the matching funds for the town's portion of the project, which was $200,000 plus or minus by a little over 200. If we are not successful, we may be looking to address this separately in the very near future if there's no grants available.
Anything further on Article 12? Being none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. So we go to Article 13 to see if the town meeting will vote to appropriate $5,000 from available fund dog licenses to the kennel revolving account as seed money for the purpose of animal care, veterinary medical expenses, and maintenance. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? I guess I do have one question. The way it's drafted as seed money for the purpose of animal care, veterinary medical expenses, and maintenance, I understand maintenance, but as far as the animal care, veterinary, I thought we were already providing those services through the budget now.
Good evening. Yes, so we are providing services. We do have a budget through animal control. We have noticed over the past several years some challenges in trying to keep up with the need. Because the town has a responsibility to provide emergency treatment to animals in need, and there's no guarantees of how many animals you're going to know that that have a need. We proposed a revolving account at last year's May town meeting. So we established the fund in order to try to make it more sustainable, so that the we don't have to rely on the budget to meet the need. So this revolving account was put in place so that any fees that come in, for example, a loose dog, there's a fee to pick up that dog. There's boarding fees, there's adoption fees. Those fees now go into the revolving account to help sustain the money that's needed in order to provide emergency veterinary care.
So I guess the $5,000, what is to appropriate it from the available funds of dog licenses, that's just going to be in addition to the fees that are coming in?
Through the chair, it's really advanced money because I can't expend any money out of that account without money being available. I can't run that in a deficit. So this really advances $5,000 and will give Darlene and the ACO an opportunity to seek reimbursement and to make that account whole again. So it's just really fronting the money, a mechanism to front those funds up.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any other questions? Being none, on Article 13. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you very
Article
much.
14 gets to be an interesting one here now with the solar bylaws. It's the Town of Auburn zoning bylaws, and it's for adding a new solar bylaw. And maybe if we can we have somebody speak
Through the
on
chair, I'm happy to invite Matt Benoit up to speak to this. As you said, this is a zoning bylaw, so this does require a vote of town meeting, and then it needs to go to the Attorney General's office. Prior to that, it needs to go through the standard Mass General Law process of going to the planning board for a hearing, and this would just, this has gone to the planning board for its hearing, so we're ready to move forward on this, correct?
It's tomorrow.
Okay.
Welcome, Mr. Benoit.
Hello. What this is a solar bylaw mechanism to allow the planning board and the zoning board to have special permit-based control over solar developments, as we currently don't have a bylaw for these now. As most of us know, these are popping up all over the state. There's currently up to the interpretation of the zoning officer for the best fit description in our bylaw, but it doesn't have any regulation or application requirements or any conditions or bonding requirements for decommissioning a solar array. So that's some of the language you'll see in here. It just gives us more control and governance over solar projects.
Well, I guess my question is, and just reading through it, it's for the large-scale ground-mounted solar energy systems. This is not for individual residences, for roof projects and backyard projects. This is actually for the larger-scale developments.
It's a great question. It actually covers them all. It'll cover accessory use, so it's roof-mounted on people's houses. It'll be an accessory use. There's also ground-mounted on a small scale, medium scale, and a large scale. And all of those guidelines, based on their scales, come straight from the Department of Energy Resources. And we use their guidelines to create this bylaw.
Okay, so this bylaw, of course, is going through the process, and it still has to go to the state, but then it's also got to go to town meeting. How does this affect solar projects in place now?
Sure, good question. So, under the current interpretation from the zoning officer, under section 3240, which he's been using for some of the other past projects that have come to town, it's a special permit almost in every zone. Now, some zones, as you all well know, have a smaller lot requirement than others. Like residential A is only a 10,000 square foot lot requirement. The zoning bylaw committee, review committee, felt that the residential A would not be the best fit for these large-scale developments. So what you'll see in the bylaw before you today is just a site plan approval mechanism for medium scale, anything that's 40,000 square feet or less. And then for large scale, there's special permit requirements of giving the zoning board to approve or deny those larger scale projects.
So this won't affect projects that are already in place? This is going to be from this point on?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
And it's a lot of verbiage, it's very complex, and it looks like there's been a lot of work put into it, but do you foresee any changes being made in this document, or a possibility that it won't get passed through the state level?
The only potential changes that might come could be from the board tomorrow night, from the planning board, might be special permit or site plan requirements in particular zones. I don't see any verbiage changes or any large-scale changes to that effect. We've had this vetted for a little less than 2 years now.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Sure thing. Thank you.
Anything further on that? Being none? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, and that's the last article on this. I beg pardon?
Was there a motion on that?
I believe there was. Was there?
Well, we'll ask Sharon.
You did not have a motion. All right, we'll ask for a motion.
to accept.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Now, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if we're finished with the warrant, I would like to make a motion to move up Board of Selectmen item 7H, which is surplus property, immediately followed by member item 10A, noise complaints, because I see we do have some residents here.
Okay, 7H and 10A. Can we move those two up, please?
Second.
Motion.
I'll make a motion.
I made the motion.
Okay, and second? All those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, let's go to
7H.
7H. Vote to declare surplus property 3 police cruisers per the request of the police department.
Through the chair, if I may, I believe you have a letter in your packet from Sergeant Wildman.
He just stood up.
Oh, good. So could I invite Sergeant up to explain? And then you can refer to the letter from him in your packet that I believe was handed to
We
you.
received the updated letter.
Hi, good evening. I'm on the midnight shift, so I don't see most of you very often, except at the holiday parties. Do you want me to read the letter, members of the board? Okay.
Or just, you could explain it also on however you want to handle it. You can read through it all or just
Sure.
explain.
So, as one of my responsibilities as a sergeant at the police department is I'm in charge of cruiser maintenance, recently became in charge of new cruiser purchases, as well as building and grounds. Each year when we purchase new cruisers, there's often older cruisers that have been repaired several times that we recommend for surplus. And those cruisers sometimes get reused by the town, or they get auctioned, or they can get used as spare parts for other cruisers that are in the fleet. In this circumstance, we have 3 older cruisers that have been repaired several times. And in working with the highway department, as well as speaking with my supervisors, we're recommending these 3 cruisers for surplus, which would ultimately be auctioned off. I can read you the letter, or whatever you'd like.
I'll make a motion to declare the 3 police cruisers stated in the letter from Sergeant Wildman for surplus and requested by the police department.
Okay, second.
Okay. Is there any questions, comments? Mr. Liberty?
I have a few questions. Through the chair, do you have an estimate as to how much we'll get for each of the vehicles?
I do not. That's something I would be happy to speak with the highway department about. They actually, Kenny Rubin at the highway department, we have a great working relationship, and what he does is each year he will send several town cruisers to the auction. I'd be happy to speak with him and see what the estimated value would be.
And follow up, do we know how much it'll cost to replace each of the?
Well, each year, and forgive me, I'm not very familiar with budgeting, but each year I know we put in a request to purchase new cruisers or police equipment, and we have 3 new cruisers that are currently being outfitted at Duggan Vehicle Equipment. And then I know Lieutenant Harrigan each year will put in a request, as well as the estimate to purchase whatever cruisers are needed each fiscal year.
Mr. Castanovich, anything to add to that?
Just my recollection is typically a surplus cruiser will yield about $200 to $2,500, all depending on its condition. But that was my recollection of what the town would get per cruiser. The new cruisers, I believe, are running somewhere between $35,000 and $38,000 fully equipped. Last time we went out and purchased them. So we're now buying those outright. We're not financing those, so we're not paying any interest for short-term, any type of leases. So we're infusing roughly $100,000 of tax levy into the capital program. That allows us to buy these cruises outright now.
Yes, sure.
Chair, so you mentioned that they'll go for around $35,000 to $38,000 fully equipped, but I noticed in the letter that we are taking some of the, some things out of the cruisers that we're getting up, so not everything is going to be brand new in the
Right.
new cruisers.
To the best we can, we will utilize the equipment that is currently in these cruisers and try to retrofit them into the new if we have an opportunity to do so. But I know we're going with new mobile radios, which we're going to be put into the cruisers, so my guess is this equipment will not be transferable.
Is there anything else? Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, now we go to item 10A, discussion on the noise complaints received regarding Friday night live entertainment at Sheldon's Harley-Davidson. And Mrs. Goodrich, have you still got a voice?
I do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As board members know, the board issued several outdoor entertainment licenses for Sheldon's Harley-Davidson on Friday evenings. There were some issues prior, but they came in, they made a lot of assurances to us, and changed the location of the music, etc. The first thing under discussion that I'd like to ask the board when we finish tonight is to ask Sheldon's to come in to address some of these issues. But I don't know if other board members receive complaints, but I'm guessing because I live right in the area, I receive most of them. And it's also my understanding that many complaints were made to the Auburn Police Department. While we hear from residents, and with the board's permission, I also have a video that I have on my phone, which can show board members the level of sound from inside the home, and then you can make the decision how you want to move forward. But I know we do have a couple residents here who wanted to speak.
Well, I'll ask anybody from the neighbors or anybody that has a comment on it to come forward, introduce themselves, and just make a short, brief statement of...
Hello, everybody. My name's Mark McCrillis. I live on Sunnyside Road, which I've been there about 7 years, and it's a dead-end street, cul-de-sac, should be a quiet neighborhood. I don't know how many of you are familiar with it, but we always have a problem with Sheldon's. I know you guys had a conversation maybe a year ago or so where you addressed some issues, and monitoring that very closely, I thought, great, we have a solution to the problem, we're not going to hear anything. And then maybe 3 weeks, a month ago, I can look at the exact date, we start hearing music again, and I at that point I say, okay, something's going on. I have all the windows closed in the house, I have the air condition running, trying to put the kids to bed, and I can still hear song lyrics from the music that's being played. At which point I called the police, asked them if there's anything they could do. They send a officer down, call me back, say it's going to end soon. Okay, fine. And then recently, I don't know if it was last Friday or the Friday before, another concert's going there, and I said, this is getting out of hand. I mean, I'm supposed to be in a quiet neighborhood, and all I hear is motorcycle engines, concerts. I'm trying to put my kids to bed. And, it's one thing, close the windows and I don't hear it. Every now and then I can deal with it, but this is out of hand. I mean, this is supposed to be a quiet neighborhood. So that's pretty much all I have to say. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer anything.
Thank you for coming forward.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I wanted to just, so the board can see, you can see that this, and I'll pass it around, was taken from inside the home. And when you're in your home, you shouldn't hear music like that from such a distance. So I can just pass that down, just so board members can see. It's just a basic sound taken from inside the home.
Okay. I was, myself, I was at Ronnie's on Friday night, and when I got out of the car, I happened to notice that there was some music from across the street, and so I walked over to the sidewalk, the edge of the property, and you could actually see in that there was a band playing. It wasn't just stereos or anything. There was a band playing. It appeared to be behind the building or a little bit sheltered by the building, but you could hear it across Route 20. And if you can hear that as she has behind a glass door, I can imagine what it's like on the Blaker Street, Albert Street, and Tinker Hill, how much noise there would actually be. I think my feeling is I have never heard any complaints or anything. I guess I can be one to help make a complaint, but I feel that this entertainment license that we have has got to be revised, which we will be talking about in the near future. But I think it's a concert. It's a venue for entertainment. It's not, but it's a motorcycle shop. And I can understand that you have some sort of festivals, some sort of sales and types of things like that, but not to the point of a rock band. And like I say, it's not a venue for entertainment. It is a motorcycle sales shop. And I do understand there's demonstrations, and I understand there's, noise associated with that, and to have, pretty much limited music played on the site just as background, but if you're hearing motorcycles, you're not hearing bands. And when I went by, I heard both motorcycles and bands. So I think it's inappropriate for them to have that type of an entertainment license for that kind of thing. And hearing from, hearing from the video and then also hearing from residents, I'm going to stick with that, and yeah, I'm going to take a good close look at this when we get to that policy. Mr. Carpenter.
Yes, I have
And Mrs. Goodrich.
a couple of questions. So it looked like it was fairly light out from that video, but was the manager on site, and I know we had asked him to provide his number. Was he responsive to these complaints, or he was not?
So it's my understanding that the Board of Selectmen doesn't handle the actual complaints. So just for the record, the other date, and Mr. McCrillis did contact me on that date as well. The other date was September 7th, and this one's at night. You can see similar music. So I encourage people to call the police because they are the authority to handle it. So I can't answer whether the manager was on site.
I was very concerned giving all those dates because of the past performance, and was kind of, I won't say bullied, but I would say that I was strongly suggested that we need to give these guys a chance, and I agree with Mr. Holstrom. This is a commercial district, but like all of the commercial districts in town, it's surrounded by neighbors. And Sunnyside is fairly high up on Prospect. And the fact that he could hear it at that level, that far up Prospect, is a problem. So I would definitely support bringing them in. I would ask that we have a report from the police department and, have a formal investigation so that we're not just having a hearing anecdotally, so we'll have some information.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, just before we ask the police officer to come up, when we're, and something that I didn't consider because my children are grown, when we do look at this entertainment license, we issued these licenses well into September, and not thinking, parents have worked hard to get their children back onto a school schedule after being off most of the summer. So now they've spent the first couple of weeks prior to school starting to get their children on a summer schedule, and they've put their children to bed at 7:30 or 8 o'clock, and we've given them a license till 9 o'clock. So I think that's something that we need to look at. A July concert is different than during the school year. So when we look at that policy, I think that's something that we have to look at. And again, I think I was with Mr. Carpenter when I agreed with Mr. Carpenter at the time. I was very hesitant to issue all of them at once. And I'll also make one last comment that I think even encouraging people to call the police, they're hesitant to call. They'd rather just kind of call us. We're their leaders, and they call us because they don't want to be the neighbor who's complaining, or they don't want their name attached to it. For whatever reason, I accept their complaints, and I'm, telling the board that I received these complaints.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything further on this?
Mrs. Jacobson.
The Chair,
sorry.
just if it helps the board, also just want to let you know, first of all, Sergeant Lamoureux is on his way up. Officer Gustafson is here as well, but Sergeant Lamoureux is here, and I believe he may have been the one that responded or can at least speak to the board. Thank you. He did respond this previous Friday night, so he can add to it for you. But just to remind the board, so you did, as Mrs. Goodrich said, you did issue, there were two different sets of licenses, just so we understand which ones we're talking about. So you issued a outdoor entertainment license for Friday nights, and it was every other Friday night, starting April 13th, and going through this previous Friday night, 9/21. So the outdoor ones for now are done, but so there's no action to take as far as revoking any future license, because you don't have one in place right now. So it'll be a discussion on how to handle it in the future. And there was another license also issued for various events on Saturdays from 11 to 3. So up until this prior Saturday, 9/22, they were licensed for both outdoor entertainment and beer. And moving forward, so again, 2 weeks from now, on 10/6,
I don't think we approved those yet.
this will
I don't
be,
think they went to DCG for those, did they?
I believe that I have a copy of the license here. It was issued on 7/23.
What was issued on 7/23?
The one-day beer and wine outdoor entertainment for the attached.
These are indoors only.
This first half is outdoor.
Right, those are completed.
That's what I'm saying. So the outdoor is completed.
Okay.
So the license that was issued up through the 22nd, thank you, is completed. So moving forward, it's just indoor. I assume would be indoor, especially at this time of year. So I just wanted to remind the board that those are done for now, and then moving forward, again, you'll have to look at what would be the appropriate hours to do this and what some of the issues have
I
been.
believe that before they come back in, we'd like to get a report from the police department to put this all together. And then I guess what will depend upon what we get for a report is when we'll have them come back in, because if there are no other licenses pending for outdoor entertainment, it'll be like the next time they come in and apply, that we would have them come in, unless this board is willing to have them come in and speak to them about what has happened, and have maybe the reporting police officer here as well as maybe residents. I don't, Mrs. Goodrich.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That was, when I first spoke to this, that certainly is my ask, that we not wait until next spring, that, residents may want to be here. It's fresh in their minds. They can describe it. I can figure out how to transfer these two videos with the help of IT to make them part of the record, but I would like to invite the manager of Sheldon's in at the soonest meeting possible.
Okay.
And I'll make that in the form of a motion.
I beg pardon?
She made a motion, I seconded it, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
Is there any further discussion? Is there a report we're going to get tonight, Ms. Jacobson, or are we...
Through the chair, Sergeant Lamoureux was going to try to stop up. I'm not sure if something might have detained him on the way. So we can certainly talk to the chief and see if we can get a report from Sergeant Lamoureux regarding what happened when he went on Friday night, unless I just heard a door open. And if not, we're happy to get a report to you.
Well, we get a report to us, but also for our next meeting, I believe, be a good time to have them come in and speak to us, and let's see if we can resolve this and find out what actions are going to be taken. Is the sergeant here now, or is he...
Sounds like yes. Mr. Chairman, before he comes in, can I ask...
Yes, Mr. Carpenter.
Consideration of the board. This is the only dealership that has these type of events. Can we ask, I don't recall in my time on the board, any other dealership asking for outdoor or indoor events to sell vehicles. Can we ask the police also to give us any complaints that might have been received on, President's Day weekend at the dealerships, causing a nuisance or anything like that?
All right.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, to follow up on what Mr. Carpenter just said, which just reminded me, you're absolutely right. Not only do other dealerships not do this, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that auto dealerships are even prohibited from having outdoor loud speaker systems for paging purposes, for that very reason. So, that's a very valid point there. A dealership similar to an auto dealership, and if they are, they should be following the same rules as an auto dealership. And again, they're prohibited. Auto dealerships not only are not playing music, but they're prohibited from using an outdoor speaker system.
Thank you. Mr. Jacobson, have we got a representative here from the police department to give us...
We do. Sergeant Lamoureux is here, and thank you for coming up. Could you come up to the table?
Yes.
Easier. Thank you. Sergeant Dan Lamoureux.
Welcome, Sergeant.
Hello.
Can you give us a little bit of a summary, a little background of what's happened at Sheldon's from your point?
So I was working on Friday evening with a number of officers, and we received several phone calls reporting loud noise coming from Sheldon's on Southbridge Street. Officers went up there. The first time Officer Randy McCarthy arrived, who's a veteran officer, he reported that the noise was reasonable from Sheldon's. And then we had further calls, one or two more, I'm not sure how many. And he went back, and he reported on the radio that he couldn't hear any noise in front of the dealership at that time. So we didn't have any reason to go back after that, and we referred any callers to call the town hall.
Thank you. I think, in fairness, I think sometimes when you've made a complaint and it's been an ongoing thing for some time, sometimes you think you hear, the sound, it may be coming forward because you've already shot yourself in the foot and that complaint has already been made, so now you're going to be listening for it and you're going to be listening harder. But in retrospect, hearing this video tonight and hearing from Sunnyside, it sounds like there has been some significant complaints because of significant noise. So it's not just, people listening real close say, yeah, I can hear it, so I'm going to make a complaint. No, it sounds like it's significant sound to make a complaint.
It's certainly possible.
Yes, Mrs. Goodrich.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the board made a motion to ask Sheldon's to come in to discuss this, and also asked, I don't know if you're in the room, that the town manager get a report from the police department. So I just, so I don't forget, would like to discuss with you, if you're the one creating the report, I have 2 time and date stamped audio videos to make part of the record for you so that you could hear the address, that you could hear the sound.
Okay, definitely.
Thank you.
And through the chair, if I also may add, Sergeant, right before you came in, there was a talk about seeing if there were any other police complaints that had been registered with regard to any of the car dealerships, with any of the events that they may have run in the past.
I couldn't give you that information tonight.
No, but for a future report, I'm sorry, for a future report. And I think the request was to have it for the next meeting on October 9th. Is that what you're looking for? Or just within the next couple of weeks or within the month?
Few meetings, because we want to do this now before we start looking at issuing licenses in the spring.
Okay.
Now, Sergeant, you said that you had a couple of your officers go down and check and it was reasonable, but how many calls overall did you get, complaint-wise? Roughly ballpark?
I think the number was around 6 during the evening, and Officer McCarthy, when he first went down there, I spoke to him tonight just to make sure I had the right information.
Mm-hmm.
He said that he talked to 2 men out front, and he notified them that there had been at least 1 complaint about noise.
Okay.
They said they would advise the manager. I couldn't give you the exact time of that complaint right now, and I haven't seen or heard the video, so I don't know how the time relates to that as well. I've been told that in that area that the noise is not the same on Route 20 as it is when it gets up into the neighborhood areas. So what my guys hear when they're down on Route 20...
Not to hear you, same you're going to hear on Tinker Hill.
I don't know if it's the same in someone's backyard in the woods. I couldn't answer that.
Okay. If we could possibly get a report and maybe have them come back here for our next meeting, maybe we can see if we can't... maybe, and have somebody from Sheldon's here at the same time so we can hear it all together?
Through the chair, just to clarify, do you want it for the next meeting on October 9th, or do you want it for the meeting after that? There's been a couple of different...
My motion was to, a meeting in the near future when we have this information.
Okay, so the near future,
It could be October 22nd, it could be the 1st.
Or the 20th.
What if I propose that as soon as we get the report from the police, we'll talk to the chief, we'll work with the sergeant, and as soon as we have the report, we'll let you know, and if it's possible to get it on the 9th, we will, and if not, it would bump to the next meeting. And also, you want to make sure that Sheldons can come in as well, and that they have ample notice.
And any residents who made a complaint have the opportunity to be heard.
So we'll make a motion that we have them come in at a future meeting, and for our next meeting to have, maybe notify Sheldons of a date or what kind of availability they have, as well as representatives from the police department.
I just had a question.
Yes.
Could somebody email the chief, like, specifically what you'd like from the police department, just so there's no miscommunication about what information you want?
I'll send that tomorrow.
Okay.
That'd be great.
All right.
Thank you, Sergeant.
You're welcome.
Thank you for coming in.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And thank you, Officer Gustafson, for being here tonight. Thank you. Okay.
Coming in.
All right, we'll go back to our agenda again, and we've been through the town meeting warrant. Now, gift acceptances. We have a couple here tonight. The first one we have is for $300 for the Pappas Recreation Complex from Richard and Jeanette Bianculli.
Accept with gratitude?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. And for the Fire Rescue Department, Karen Wojcik, memory of Donald and Alice Ganache for $100. And that'll be to the Fire Department gift account.
Motion to accept with gratitude.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Okay. We have no request for proclamations tonight. We have discussion and vote on proposed Board of Selectmen goals, including to perform a comprehensive review of all BOS policies, and for any policies that go before the DCG, ask the DCG for their feedback on those specific policies. Okay. All right, we had some goals from last week that we had discussed. Is there any further discussion on any of those? And one of the things we had talked about here was to, do a comprehensive review on all the policies, but also to, any policies go before the DCG, ask the DCG for feedback on those specific policies. So, what is the wish of the board? Mr. Carpenter.
I don't know that we need to do a review of all policies unless there's been some sort of change to the laws or how other communities are doing it. Definitely, I know there's been discussion of the outdoor-indoor license. I would support that. Sending something to the DCG, to me, isn't a goal, because we're asking them for something, and then I'm guessing that we want to, the thought is that we would act on that within some period of time, but...
I believe when we talked about going to the DCG is to, if they have something that comes to them, that we get some feedback from them, so that, are we on the right path to what we've got in our policies, or is there something extra that we should be looking at? And I think that's what we want to do, and if it's something that the board should agree on, we should go forward with it.
I guess that sounds more like work for the DCG than for us, I guess, is my concern, is we're putting a responsibility on them.
Okay.
For something we're doing.
Mrs. Goodrich.
I don't know.
So my recollection of the discussion at the last meeting was more so all of the goals proposed were reviews of policies. And so the discussion was, are we going to have one subcommittee that's going to do all of this work, and then it wouldn't be the entire board's goals, or are we going to have a couple separate subcommittees? Say one subcommittee to just do a cursory review of all of our policies, and then the additional subcommittee who's already doing work on the policy that Mr. Liberty is proposing with a live feed, the policy that we have for the recognition policy. That's a discussion that I had hoped that we would have.
Okay.
Because I feel that we need more than one subcommittee.
Well, I know that there's one subcommittee right now working on policies that we had already discussed prior to, and that would be the proclamation policy and the recognition policy. And those are going to be coming up at discussion tonight. And also, you know, it's up to this board to decide whether or not we want to just the entertainment, the outdoor-indoor entertainment, because that's going to be pretty comprehensive and pretty detailed, I think, in lieu of some of the events that have taken place, and we want to take a look at that, and maybe there should be just a subcommittee just to focus on that. What's the wishes of the board? Mr. Carpenter?
For me, I don't have a problem having a separate subcommittee look at that. Personally, I know Mr. Berthium and Mr. Liberty they've taken the lead on the live streaming, and I know we voted to authorize that. I don't recall us voting to authorize any others. I would rather focus on one or two rather than go through everything, and I just don't see the point of that. I don't see the point of asking the DCG to, it almost sounds like we're asking them to do our work for us. And that, I'm sure, isn't the intent. I'm just, if we're sending to them and saying, oh, by the way, what do you think?
Okay, I think that absolutely you're right. I mean, we should approach them and say, you know, the DCG, when they do meet, if they've got any suggestions about a change of how they would approach something, how they would ask questions, what they would be looking for a specific thing, then they should bring that back to us. And I do agree that that's their work back to us. But as far as the entertainment, indoor and outdoor entertainment policies, I think a subcommittee should just focus on that, because there's a lot to that. I know in the past, since I've been on the board, we've had several discussions on this entertainment policy, and some of the policies have been kind of revised as we see problems cropping up or revisions to, you know, how we could help somebody to make that entertainment policy work for them. And right now, we have one that's on the other side that we're going to have to look at and see if we can, you know, restrict or find some way of taking care of this policy so they can, you know, function with it or without, whatever the policy comes up. So I guess I would ask that if the board wants, we get a subcommittee together for the outdoor-indoor entertainment policy and take a good look at it and go through it. Is there anybody interested in taking a look at that?
I'll make a motion that we set looking at the indoor-outdoor entertainment license as a goal for this year. I'll start with that.
All right. So the motion's been made for us to look at it. So this basically is a board. We're going to look at this policy, and everybody take a look at it, and we get feedback on it. But that's a motion made. Is there a second?
I seconded it.
Okay. Mr. Berthium, you got a second. So basically, the outdoor-indoor entertainment policy for the whole board to look at it, make some suggestions, and bring them back, and we can discuss as a board. And I know it's 2 weeks, but you know what, if we can do it probably by the end of October, that'll give us 4 weeks to take a good look at it and come back, and then we can discuss it and go from there. So the motion's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Being none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. And the DCG, I guess, I can approach a DCG, or we can ask the town manager to approach a DCG and say if there's any policies, if there's any, you know, suggestions that they can make that would help them review their applicants easier. I think probably if we could do that, then they could report back to us with anything that they may have questions on, or things that they could suggest to us to help them along with their work. Ms. Jacobson, could you do that for us? to approach them and just see
If the board takes a vote to do that, yes.
Is there anything, that, Mr. Carpenter?
If I can make a suggestion, I know we just set goals for the town manager. Is this an urgent need, or can we wait and give this as a goal? Because I know they have the zoning review, and they're doing a lot of that work now. A lot of the department heads are involved in that. Is this something that we could hold off and then ask the manager if this is, set it as a goal for her to then work through the departments that way?
Well, set the goal for, probably for next year then?
Yes, because she just got her goal, so I don't think it would be fair to say.
All right,
Here's an extra.
I don't have any problem with that. I think then, yeah, it's not a critical thing. It's just, just kind of a, another tool in the workbox so we can see to help us out with some of our deliberations and work. So if that be the case, then we can bring that up a future meeting. Okay. Let's see. We go to. Let's see. Item 7I. Vote to appoint a member of the media who's an Auburn resident to the John E. and Ethel E. Riley Outstanding Citizen Award Committee. I know that we've had John Anderson in the running before, and I haven't seen him for a while. I don't know if he's tied up, if he's unavailable. And Jeff, I'm not sure. Yeah, Mr. Bertram.
Well, I can probably vouch for John to say that fall sports are going on, and he covers just about as many of the sporting events as he can for the high school, so that might be why he's not here.
Well, I just received an email, and it was to Sharon from John Anderson, and it's dated September 24th at 12:06, noontime today. Thanks, Sharon. I am unable to attend tonight, but if I am needed to serve on the Riley Committee, I am willing. And that's from John Anderson. So if that be the case, John is willing to, and we'll need a motion.
Make that motion.
Make a motion to
John Anderson.
have John Anderson be the, on the committee for the
I'll second it.
Riley Award. Okay, is there any discussion? Being none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
I'm going to abstain, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so there'll be 4 in favor and 1 abstention. Okay, so now we go to item 8D, update on the swimming pool feasibility study and the second survey. Mr. Jacobson.
Thank you. I just want to give you all an update on the feasibility study, and just a reminder that this was funded with a $30,000 grant from the Pappas Foundation, and we started this process probably around May, and we, with our consultant, BSC Group, developed an initial preliminary survey to get out to the residents to see if there was an interest in a pool. Whether it would be an indoor pool or an outdoor pool, and based on that, what types of amenities would people want to see, or were they not interested at all? The results of that survey were then utilized to move forward and create now our final survey for this process anyway. And from the information that we received from the first survey, BSC took all of the potential costs of an indoor pool, an outdoor pool, for the construction, and then, again, it's estimates, estimated then the cost of the annual operating and maintenance, and put that into a second survey. So now we're asking the residents to look at those costs, and based on those costs, now respond. Would you be still interested in an indoor pool? Would you be interested in an outdoor pool? Depending on your answer, you'll be taken to a different section of the survey. So we did include a copy of the survey in your packet, but as I said, if you take it online, you'll just be directed to the question depending on your response. So the indoor will take you to the indoor section, the outdoor will take you to the outdoor section. You can also fill it out in hard copy, So it is available on our website. There's a link on our website for the swimming pool feasibility study survey, and we also put it out on social media, Auburn Community TV. Also have hard copies at Town Hall, the Senior Center, and the library. And we've put a closing date for this as Friday, October 5th. Then we will take all the information and incorporate it into a final report that the consultants will then eventually be bringing into the board. Simultaneous to this, they're working on one other piece, which is identifying potential sites in town. We're not making a recommendation, because that's a broader discussion, as you know, that took place with the Dog Park Committee. It takes time to look at where the sites are. They're basically looking at all of the town-owned properties, and then by process of elimination, based on size, based on access, would be eliminating those sites that really we shouldn't be looking at all. Then when all of that's done, we'll invite them in to present to the board, so you'll have some information and to be able to decide if this is something you want to ultimately recommend go to a ballot question. Do you want to recommend that it goes on the annual town meeting, or do you want to recommend a special town meeting for a warrant article, depending on what comes back? So we'll keep you informed, and we'll make sure that once this whole report is done, that the consultant comes in and gives a presentation to you.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Berthium.
Just a quick question. Is the survey one per household?
Yes.
Or it is, okay.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you. I should have said that. It's one per household. You know, there's really no way to prevent multiple surveys, although I would tell you that we can track the IP address. So the consultants have the ability to look and see that, yeah, 15 came in from the same IP address. We can't really prevent anybody from using different computers, or that people can be creative, I suppose, but I think people are fair, and they want to just give the one vote per household. And again, when the first survey went out, it did come back, many of the people, and I'd say it was a slight majority of the people, did want a swimming pool. We just want to make sure that that was just, they knew that that was just a concept. Now that we have some costs affiliated with it, and we also, I should mention, working with the assessor's office and Eddie, we're able to calculate those costs for the single-family, for the average single-family tax bill. So first of all, we could put an estimated cost to the tax rate, and then we could also take that and put an average cost to the average single-family homeowner of $237,000. So that is all in the survey as well.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We go to tabled items, revision of the recognition policy, and we'll take the both of them, A and B, the proclamation policy and new recommendations for subcommittee's consideration. The subcommittee has met, and I have copies for everybody. We're not going to discuss tonight, but it's in your packet so that everybody can take a look, and we can possibly discuss them at our next meeting. We have looked at the proclamation and the recognition policies that were assigned to the subcommittee, and I think we have something we can look at, discuss, and maybe make some comments on and revise it so we can put these into the book. It's been ongoing for some time, and so it's, yeah, we'll take a look at them and see if we can't do that for our next meeting. So I'd like to get that on the agenda for the next meeting for Section 400's policy for issuing proclamations and letters, and the other one, policy to issue recognitions. So if we could do that for our next meeting, that would be great. Has anybody got any comments or questions on it? No. Okay. Moving on. Board of Selectmen member items. We've already looked at the Harley Davidson. And yes, we did talk. The free cash, Mr. Casanovas, you went through that already. You discussed that earlier before we were getting into the warrant itself. So we're all set with that. Thank you, Mr. Carpenter. And I guess there's no public comments tonight. Has anybody on the board got anything? Okay, I have minutes from August 27th. Is there any questions, comments, omissions, errors? Being none, I'll accept them as presented. And on that note, Mrs. Jacobson and Mr. Kastanovich, anything from you?
All set, thanks.
Entertain a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
All those in favor? Aye. Aye, opposed? Thank you and good night.